Man, disclaimers are awesome because they let you like make an hour-long video saying whatever dumb shit you want, and a little bit of text at the start or maybe end is like the academic equivalent of when you were playing cops and robbers as a kid and you shot someone and it was that one annoying kid that goes, nuh-uh, because I'm like wearing my +10 cloak of bulletproofness, and you want to argue with him about how you're not even playing that kind of game, but you know he'll just cry and then run home to his mom, and then she'll call your mom and you'll get grounded. Yeah. Bonus disclaimer, 2 for the price of 1. This video won't be done in my usual style. Usual style being a odd term for a channel that uploaded one video, vanished for a year, then just uploaded another one like nothing happened. I'm rushing this one out the door right now because I'll be playing through the Elden Ring DLC soon, and I wanted to get my thoughts on this subject out now, on the severe off chance that the DLC addresses them. And as a testament to my laziness, I wrote this script a few days before the DLC dropped, and I'm recording it on September 17th after having already put about 8 hours into the DLC. Depending on how I end up editing it, I may release this as is or add something to the end. Either way, my usual meaning twice, editing style of quick cut pics and memes and shit won't be here. This will just be raw footage of me playing through some Elden Ring, trying to get my character ready for the DLC, because I have a PS5 now, and I lost my saves from the PS4, and whatever. And before you criticize my bleed build, this is like my 6th playthrough, so I can be as cheesy as I fucking want. I have been playing the Soulsborne Kiro Ring series for a long time. There are multiple hipster power levels you can reach in regards to the series. You have people who never touched the series until giving Elden Ring a try. You know what we call those fucking trend hoppers? Their name. Followed by, welcome to the genre and hope you enjoy your time. Seriously, this fanbase is the patron saint of the vocal minority drowning out everyone else. Most fans, though they may make an occasional joke relating to good and the getting of it, they're generally helpful. After that, we have people who got Bloodborne with their PS4 and got into the series from there. And yes, I'm skipping some games, but this is just a framing device for the video, so sue me. Bloodborne is a good intro for the series. My buddy got into the series from there. Perhaps your first game was Dark Souls 2. If so, you need to talk, buddy. Let me hold you while you let it out. It's okay. Actually, Dark Souls 2 is kind of a favorite for a specific reason I'll mention later. Maybe you're an OG who was escaping cells and ringing bells because some dying guy that gave you a bottle of Fireball whiskey asked you to in Dark Souls. Maybe you're the true OG who picked up this weird little PS3 game thinking you were in for a fun adventure, and then you're like, hey, why does this video game hate me? Why did it put a chastity cage over half my health bar? Why did John Malkovich kick me down a hole? Why did some red guy named XX420 Sephiroth blaze at XX show up and set my house on fire? Why does this girl have pancakes glued to her eyes, and why do I want to tickle her feet? Is that last one just me? Oh, okay. Now maybe, just maybe, you're an alpha OG who imported an Asian copy of the game so you could brag to a friend about how this obscure little game that is so good, filthy Westerners can't handle it, and then make excuses for every 3 seconds of gameplay while they play it before turning it off, and you quietly go, okay, I guess we can go back to Uncharted. Now, which group do I belong to? Well, I transcend all you fucking scrubs because I was into the Souls series before it even existed when it was called Kingsfield. And no, I wasn't any good at those games, if you must know. I want you to think about what your favorite game in this pseudo-series is. I would say something like, your answer will say a lot about you, but honestly, there are valid reasons for any answer. But one thing that can color your answer is what your first game was. You may be an Elden Ring noob and see the rest as antiquated. You may have nostalgia for the more grimy and esoteric atmosphere of the early games. Or you might like Sekiro because grappling hooks automatically make any game better. I think that was one of Newton's laws of motion or something. My pick goes to our old friend Demon's Souls. Now at this point, I could go on a whole diatribe about why to this day it's still my favorite in the series, but I don't have to because another YouTuber already did that for me. Matthew Matosis has a wonderful video called The Lost Soul Arts of Demon Souls, and unlike his Dark Souls 2 video, where some people had a general disappointment of the game, and then his video put that feeling into words, while others may argue that it started or at least stoked the fires of a dubiously deserved hate train, I swear to you, I spent so much of that Demon Souls video yelling at my screen, yes, exactly, that's what I've been saying! It's eerie how many things he says in that video that made me feel like he's been wiretapping my house. I won't rehash the video here, but I will give you a few choice quotes that are thoughts I'd had before the video came out. So this part of my script actually lists the quotes that I was going to say, but now that I'm editing it, I figured why not just put those parts of the video in. I'm sure a couple clips isn't going to get me copyright claimed.
This is what really sets Demon Souls apart from the rest of the series. Early in its development, the project was assumed by many in FromSoft to already be a failure. Maybe a demoralizing way to think, but also liberating in a sense. That assumption is the main reason why director Hidetaka Miyazaki was able to take control of the project, and why he and his team were able to implement some, at the time, bizarre features. With Demon Souls, there was a sense that the developers were just doing whatever the hell they wanted, playing with conventions and trying new features out with little care about how appealing they would be to a mass audience. World Tendency is a perfect example of this. Some developers believe that dynamic difficulty tuning is the correct way to build their games, and even games in general. This method of design has been gaining traction since around the 90s, and given its success, it can be found in subtle forms in many mainstream games today. Other people, like myself, prefer when a game is consistently difficult, so there's a more genuine sense of satisfaction when you finally overcome the challenge at hand. Demon Souls turns its back on both of those ideas and cuts your health in half as soon as you die. As if that isn't enough, repeated deaths will increase enemy stats and eventually spawn additional Black Phantoms to make the stage even tougher. Now you might think this is a poor mechanic. There are some very sound, logical arguments against it. I'm not saying that every game should work this way, but hopefully you can understand that I find this refreshing for the simple fact that it's different from everything else. This, for me at least, was the real appeal of Demon Souls. Time and again, they threw out the rulebook and just did whatever they felt like. Conventional wisdom says that struggling players should be offered a helping hand, not pushed down a well. Conventional wisdom says that a boss should be killed by the player, not themselves. Conventional wisdom says that secrets should be secret, not pointed out by someone else. Conventional wisdom says that important NPCs and vendors are off limits, not murdered while the player isn't looking. Conventional wisdom says that the final boss should be an epic showdown, a test of the player's skills, not a pathetic, harmless blob. To me, an anticlimactic non-boss like Maiden Astraea has just as much value, if not more, than something more traditional like Flame Lurker. There are other games I can play if I want a Flame Lurker-esque experience, but only one game has Maiden Astraea. Later entries in the series, including the original Dark Souls, have largely done away with those weird boss fights, to the detriment of the overall experience. False King Allant is a great boss, so are Artorias, Ludwig and Sister Fried, among many others FromSoft have put together over the years, but they're also undeniably samey. You go in, you learn the moveset, maybe you die a few times along the way until you know the boss's moves like the back of your hand, then you dodge past them, punish at the right times and win the battle. It's perfectly serviceable gameplay, but doing it 20 times in one game is just excessive. This has been the go-to boss design philosophy for FromSoft ever since Artorias of the Abyss, and fights have only gotten more shonen anime over time. To be clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with simple combat mechanics. I'm not saying you should be able to juggle hollows or anything, but if the game is going to be so relentlessly focused on action, then I have fewer reasons not to just play a better action game instead. What I can't get elsewhere are the memorable experiences that Demon Souls presented by taking risks. The Archdemons are the clearest example of that, but even its more traditional boss fights serve a greater purpose. Demon Souls' greatest strength is how it pulls you into its bleak, dangerous world so that you think about situations the way you would if you were actually there. This is something that the Souls games continue to do kind of well, but Demon Souls still does it the best of them all, because excluding the innovative online features, almost everything else works in service of that larger goal. Phalanx, Leechmonger, Tower Knight, Fool's Idol, Old Hero, Man-Eaters and Armor Spider all have quirks to their design or their arena that the player can exploit if they figure out. You don't outright win by doing so, but you gain a big advantage if you're willing to use your brain. It's a deceptively simple concept. Thinking about how to survive a boss by using clever tactics is exactly what a real adventurer would do. In a sense, the battle happens just as much outside the fog door as inside. Because of that, the mindset of the character and the player align in such a way that it pulls the player further into the experience. On the other hand, dodging telegraphed attacks, which come out in predefined combos, is just exploiting your knowledge that the AI is acting within the constraints of a computer game. This has the opposite effect. It widens the gap between the character and the player. The word I've been avoiding is immersion, but hopefully now that I've explained it, you can see that's what it is. Demon's Souls' greatest strength is its immersive quality. That alone would be enough to make it a pretty good game, but what puts it over the top is the way it capitalizes on that immersion by throwing the player into a variety of situations which they can now experience as a first-hand participant. Patch's trickery, the imposing mind flayers, Yurt's betrayal, among many others. All these things hit harder because the game does so much work establishing itself beforehand. The rest of the series has thoughtlessly replicated many ideas from Demon's Souls, which often defeats the purpose and occasionally completely misses the point. The first time you have to make your way through a poison swamp, it's a new and interesting challenge. It gets your guard up, you have to think about your situation and make sure you have suitable equipment on hand. After 5 games in a row, it's become a predictable, tiresome routine. Even though it's the exact same thing mechanically, it now pulls you out of the game rather than in. As bad as that is, there's few things worse than when the designers botch traps and ambushes. One of the most disappointing examples is the giant archer in the undead settlement. You can see this situation coming a mile away, so when you finally arrive at the field of giant arrows, it's obvious you need to think about your approach first. For a brief moment, this mimics the best of Demon's Souls. You're there, as an adventurer, trying to decide how to overcome a difficult situation. You even have as much time to think about it as you like. The most reasonable line of thought is that the arrow will have a certain amount of travel time, so if you change direction after you hear the shot, you'll be safe. Wrong. The arrow magically curves in mid-air because this is no longer a series where you outsmart your opponents, it's a series where you press the roll button at the right time. To be fair to the later games, it's important to point out that flashes of Demon's Souls style brilliance do show through from time to time, and it's telling that they're often some of the most memorable moments in their respective games. Intentionally turning the Sith fight into an anticlimax is far more impactful than just letting it play out normally. This is especially funny to look back on now that the series seems obsessed with multi-phase bosses that get stronger after you smack them around a bit. The reality is, when you slash a big wolf creature enough times, it has trouble standing up. Rather than let you feel like a big man all the time, Dark Souls tried to remind you of the grim reality, and it worked. I assume that most people enjoy Sif anyway because you get a pretty normal fight at the start, so how about I give you a genuinely unpopular opinion. My favourite boss in Bloodborne isn't Garmin or Ludwig or the Orphan, it's this mad bastard. Micolash feels like a boss for people who enjoy Demon's Souls because he does something a boss isn't supposed to. He runs away. Trying to catch him while he flees and rambles like a nutcase is unlike anything else in the entire series. This is made all the better by the way Bloodborne firmly establishes itself as a grim game. The Nightmare of Mentis is an imposing place, but at the same time there's something vaguely comedic about Mikolash's cowardly behaviour. It's not done just for the sake of it though. If anything, it would be disappointing if such a Lovecraftian game didn't have a fight against a mad scholar. It comes together well, and again, it's something I can't quite get elsewhere, which isn't to say that it's good just because it's different, but that certainly helps. If the Dancer of the Boreal Valley had been in Demon's Souls, I probably would have loved it. It has an intriguing visual design, and the unconventional attack animations present a good challenge. The reason I don't enjoy it is because it's in a game filled with bosses just like it. I could point to many of the bosses in Dark Souls 3 and say that they're pretty good, but only in isolation. A great game is more than the sum of its parts. A little restraint would go a long way, as has been proven in a few other instances. Most of us can probably agree that the reveal of Irithyll in Dark Souls 3 is one of its better moments. You emerge from the catacombs and see a beautiful, snow-covered landscape topped by a crescent moon. It's a wonderful vista. One thing Miyazaki and I seem to have in common is a fondness for these kinds of snow areas. As much as I love them, and believe me I do love them, I can still see that if the game had been nothing but snowy nighttime levels up to that point, the Irithyll reveal would have meant nothing. Just because it's my favourite kind of area doesn't mean I want the whole game to be like that. It's the surprise that makes it work. Another example would be Gwyn's theme in Dark Souls 1. You ask anyone who played Dark Souls and they'll list it as one of the most memorable tunes, but would it have been as good if the entire soundtrack was somber piano music? Of course not. It's the contrast with previous boss themes that makes it stand out. My point here is that even traditional boss fights stand to benefit by including others that don't fit into the same mold. When it's a foregone conclusion that every fight will be a dodge and punish affair, they lose their impact. Call it whatever you want. Restraint, pacing, surprise, variety, contrast. It's something Demon's Souls has in spades which the later games lack. Demon's Souls is one of those rare, genuinely innovative games that did enough new things its influence can be clearly felt on the gaming landscape of subsequent years. That originality is one of its best qualities, but it would be unfair to expect every game FromSoft creates to be innovative. The more important thing about Demon's Souls is how cohesive it is. It's FromSoft unfiltered, free to pursue an overarching design methodology even if that results in some unpopular decisions. That's what I want for every game developer. Games are more interesting when they're unshackled by the expectations of a narrow-minded fanbase or the financial whims of a publisher. Right now it feels as though these games have fallen victim to one or the other, maybe both. Whatever the cause, recreating the superficial elements of Demon's Souls isn't enough to make a truly great game by itself. It needs more. The magic of Demon's Souls lies under the surface. It's a culmination of ideas and concepts that work together in unity to accomplish something greater. That's not to say it's perfect. In fact, it seems pretty clear that it wasn't even finished before it was released, but the end result is a game that proves you can have it all. Haunting visuals, immersive environments, evocative sound design, satisfying gameplay, novel mechanics, intriguing storytelling, memorable characters, fun multiplayer, and a high level of replayability. They're not mutually exclusive goals. Games don't have to be one or the other. When you do it right, you can do it all. It may not be the best at any of those things, but what it offers instead is a complete package on a level that is arguably unmatched. Unfortunately, over time, FromSoft decided to focus on some of those elements at the expense of others, and as a result, those games are more easily eclipsed by others which do those things better. Demon's Souls still stands tall because it knows what it is. A demonic soul with a heart of gold.
I mean, the guy hasn't uploaded a video in like years. Please come back, Matt. We all miss you. I want to talk a bit about why I loved Demon's Souls and the genre in general, but first I'd like to give you a little anecdote that may seem irrelevant, but I promise is rather integral to the message of this video. I may very well be one of the first people who ever figured out that Bloodborne had Lovecraftian elements. I got the game on release, preloaded and everything, so I started as soon as it could be started, and I can't remember exactly how far in this was. It's been years, so it could have been anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours, but I found the item Madman's Knowledge, and I read the description for that. I'm going to read that description to you right now. Skull of a madman touched by the wisdom of the Great Ones, used to gain insight. Making contact with eldritch wisdom is a blessing, for even if it drives one mad, it allows one to serve a grander purpose, for posterity. Now, when I read that, being a very big Lovecraft fan, I started talking about how, holy shit, this game must have some kind of like aliens or like cosmic elements to it or something. Like, I wonder how it's going to go from just like this little Victorian village to like that kind of stuff. And a few people in my chat told me I was a fucking idiot. People in chat was telling me that that was a really dumb thing. It would make the game dumb. It would be a dumb idea for the game. And I felt bad about that. It made me feel bad. Fast forward about 6 months and I was streaming the game again. I had already beaten it, but I was doing some New Game Plus, trophy hunt kind of stuff. And someone in my chat asked me if I knew what the lore was. So I gave them a rundown on what I thought the general story of the game was based on what items I had read and what events I had seen. And I believe my rundown was something along the lines of, at one point in time, there was a yearly hunt that this town would go on to kind of cull the, various beasts of the region and, make things safer. And then some kind of Lovecraftian eldritch Lamals intervened and warped that and started warping, the creatures and everything going on and driving people mad. And that's where we are now. Now, obviously, that's not really the story. The aliens showed up a long time ago. The story is way different. The DLC came out and explained some other stuff. But, that was just my general, what I thought maybe happened. The person in the chat got really snarky and started mocking me for being so wrong about it. Even though the only reason they knew what it was is because they had watched lore videos and stuff. Now, I have a whole other video idea somewhere in the varying stages of my process pipeline that talks about lore channels and how I feel about them. So I won't get into that now. But the main reason I bring this anecdote up is because of how eerily similar those two events were. An event where I was getting something right about the game that most people would not realize for a long period of time just because of one single item description and getting mocked for that, and then later getting something wrong because I hadn't done as much research as other people, getting mocked for that. So that's the reason I bring this anecdote up, because both instances left me with a feeling that I was enjoying the game wrong. Not playing the game wrong, enjoying it wrong. Because to the average Soulsborne fan, it's not enough that you get good. You have to get good on their terms. Let me ask you a question. There are many different ways to play these games in terms of your build, but one is undeniably broken, OP, cheesier than a stuffed crust pizza topped entirely with ripped off crusts from other stuffed crust pizzas. Papa John's, dude, what are you doing? Are you really putting out a stuffed crust pizza now that the patent has ran out? And are you seriously calling it epic stuffed crust? Dude, weren't you the old boomer who said that pizza prices would go up if Obama got elected, but they actually went up once the Cheeto Pope got elected? Look, I'm as apolitical as you can get. I think the left and the right should go fuck each other to death. I celebrate gay marriage by firing off rounds from an AR-15 while driving a friend to an abortion clinic and asking the receptionist if they have a to-go bag, because I'll joke about anything. My sense of humor is so dark that the police won't stop shooting at it. I have transcended cancel culture. I am woke Neo, and 2B is my waifu. I'm sorry, I think I blacked out for a moment there. Where was I? Right. What is the shitty broken build that you should never ever use in a Souls game, or your playthrough does not count? You probably said magic, didn't you? Then why is it that I have consistently died far more across these games when using magic builds than when using tanky, poise is just a myth, my sword has its own zip code builds? Why are fans so quick to point out how easy magic makes the game, which, yeah, it does, but get so butthurt and defensive if you point out how easy their Berserk roleplay build is? I still haven't read that manga because I know that it in part inspired some things in Demon Souls, and somewhere within my tinfoil hat world, a part of me believes that the reason why these games are never ever balanced and ultra great swords are so overpowered is because of that. But I'll probably get around to reading it eventually. I've got a pretty big backlog. I want to read that chainsaw dude thing that people keep talking about. Anyway, honestly, at the end of the day, I don't really care what builds are strong or weak. I choose my builds for entirely one reason and one reason only. Aesthetics. For me, Fashion Souls extends to my stats and my weapons as well. Fun fact, for every game that allows me to do so, I did my first playthrough dual-wielding scimitars. Remember when I said Dark Souls 2 was a favorite for some odd reason? Well, that's because it's the one that introduced power stancing and has some of the best fucking scimitars in the series. Seriously, rocking the red rust scimitar and the jeweled one that Ladder Bro gives you is so fucking cool. Although, one thing I should say is that whenever people find out that I like dual-wielding scimitars, they always assume the same thing, that it's because of that Drizzt guy from Forgotten Realms. You know, I've never actually even read one of his books. I read The War of the Spider Queen, I've read the Elminster series, and I read like a few other random ones. In truth, my love of dual-wielding scimitars comes from two places. Kingdom Hearts and pirates. Now, I know the swords that pirates used weren't exactly scimitars, but just basically any like curved, like falchion type swords is like just something I'm really into, because I liked a lot of pirate stuff when I was a kid, and stuff like, you know, all that Arabian Nights kind of like Aladdin stuff, and that's generally the kind of swords that they used, and so I developed a liking for those kinds of swords. And it always bothered me that in most RPGs, the curved swords were usually like one of the early starter weapons, and then it is always replaced by like Flamberge and Excalibur and stuff. And these are in like those like Final Fantasy like kind of RPGs where the swords aren't as much a choice of different fighting styles, it's just ranking up in power level, and you pretty much have to choose the next sword each time you get to it. And then Kingdom Hearts came along, or Kingdom Hearts 2, I think, and let you dual wield, and I thought that looked fucking awesome, because I always thought shields were boring. So, like, just taking two swords and smacking people around with them, that just sounded cool to me. Anyway, let me get back to this. Now, while dual wielding may not be the most hardcore way to play these games, it's a fuck ton more hard than hovel poising your way through every attack while you swing around your park bench, secure in the knowledge that you will hit anything unfortunate to occupy the same dimension as you, and it will do a fuck ton of damage, and most likely poise break so you can waddle up and get your extra free hit in. But look, none of this is a problem. Whether you use summons for every boss fight while using the strongest equipment in the game, or broken sword hilt your naked ass to victory, it's all good. To quote Joseph Anderson, if you're having fun, you're playing the game right. End of story. If that's the case, then why am I making this video? Mostly I'm just lonely. Okay, so to again reference Joseph Anderson in his video for Elden Ring, he states at one point that Elden Ring was the first time that he felt that his playstyle was invalid. Now, I'm only a casual fan of his videos, so I can't comment on this either way, but what he said about Elden Ring making his playstyle feel invalid is something I felt for a very long time while playing these games. At one point, he echoes a complaint that I've had for a long time about the series, that with each entry, enemies move faster and more anime-like while your moveset remains the same. Sadly, he immediately dismisses that and says that if you feel that way, you should go back and play the early games and then come back to the later games and see how much your moveset has evolved. So I did, and I'm sorry, I don't see it. Yeah, animations are a little bit smoother, and with things like Soul Arts and Ashes of War and eventually a jump button, you have some more move options, but I still feel the way I felt for the entire time I've been a fan of this genre. The way I like to put it is that from day one, it's always felt like you are playing Dark Souls. Whereas while in the beginning, the enemies were also playing Dark Souls, by now they're playing Devil May Cry. Don't agree with me? Think back to how Flame Lurker would leap around the arena, or how unique Artorias was to the point where his moveset actually felt like it fit with the lore that the Abyss was puppeteering his body, just flinging it around the arena. Now that's just every boss, and every enemy, but crucially, not you. Yeah, some Ashes of War might let you do a little flip here and there, and some great sword movesets include some slight Artorias-esque flipping around, but still. Now, try to understand, none of this is inherently a complaint. Yes, I really can't stand that a game that has hundreds of different weapons feels like it's only balanced for about 10% of them, to the point where I sometimes wonder if that's the whole point, if you're supposed to figure out which weapons are good and which weapons suck, as if it's some kind of a puzzle or something that the devs are playing. But whatever. Watching my gameplay here that I've just tacked on, you'll have likely seen a lot of attacking and dodging and some item usage. I don't know. I'm writing the script before recording the video. I don't even know what part of the game I'll be in when I record it. Hell, I might even pause at some points while editing to quickly record another soundbite to address something in the video. I don't know. I use the word script lightly. Even though this is only the third video on this channel, I have done some scripted videos before in the past. You know, some couple top 10 lists and stuff that I did for an old channel. And I find it really hard to read from a script while sounding natural. My scripts are actually a combo of actual scripting and then just notes. Like earlier when I talked about why I like to dual wield scimitars, all the script said was just talk about why I like dual wielding scimitars. I don't know if that's a good way to do a script, and just so you know, what I'm saying right now isn't in the script. I don't know if putting parts in the script where you just generally say, hey, talk about this for a bit is a good idea, but oh well. I've thought of making a video like this for a while, but what pushed me to do it was an article from a lot of sites. Sorry, I don't know if there's one site that broke the story or did the interview. I just saw a lot of people covering it. But the article was about Miyazaki saying he's not very good at these games and will use every single tool at his disposal, which is also a valid way of playing the game. But what's interesting is, even though he's the creator, that's a playstyle that would get him so much hate from the fan base. Ironic, don't you think? Now, my preferred playstyle is as follows. I like to dual wield scimitars, or a scimitar and a shield, when dual wielding wasn't a thing back in Dark Souls 1. Though I did do it in Dark Souls 1 with a high damage weapon in one hand and a poison inflicting weapon in the other. I think my damaging one was the one that you get from the soul of Queequeg. I know it's pronounced Quelaag, but my late wife used to pronounce it Queequeg, and that always made me laugh. By the way, she beat Demon Souls, and even though she had MS and couldn't handle any game that had button-mashing QuickTime events, I'm not sure I've ever been more aroused than when she landed the killing blow on False King Allant. How do I put this in a YouTube-friendly way? You know that move he does where he impales you and drains one of your soul levels? Well, imagine that you're the one doing the impaling, and that through that move, you have about 10 of your own soul levels, but instead of draining their soul level, you drain about 10 of your own. Yeah. Back on topic. I rarely use consumables or summons. It's not an ego thing. I just don't like summons because I feel like it's me against the world. Sometimes I use summons when it's a character that I've met and I feel like it kind of makes sense that they would go up against this person, you know? Like in Elden Ring when you meet that, I can't remember what her name was, but that warrior girl who ends up having the same last name as the Horalu guy, and you meet her in the Abanuric village, and I summoned her for that fight because it made sense story-wise. So sometimes I summon when it makes sense story-wise, and I've talked to a character and they've said something about wanting to fight in an area. But other than that, when there's a summon sign and it's just some random NPC name that I don't recognize, I don't do it. I also don't play online. I played most of Demon Souls online, and it was a lot of fun. Every invasion was different and weird, and people were doing crazy things. But then the exploits and build rot set in, and slowly I found myself invaded by the same few builds over and over and over again, and it just wasn't fun.
Why was a purple item on a corpse? Purple being like for a really special item. Only thing better being like the orange ones. the exact same as just a generic resource that I grabbed from the environment 2 feet away. What the fuck is this game?
For me. So eventually I just turned off the online. And honestly, I think that actually makes the games kind of harder. Seriously, think about it. Getting invaded is just a time setback. That's all that is. Playing the games without messages helping you every 2 steps is more enjoyable and makes finding secrets more satisfying. Now, you may say, well, then just don't read the messages, but the fact that you even see a message by like a wall or something clues you in that something's going on there. You know, you walk into an area that seems like nothing's going on, and then over by a tree there's like 40 fucking messages. You know something's going on over by the tree. You know? As a side note, I played Death Stranding during a time in my life where I had no internet access at all, a period that lasted about 4 or 5 years. I won't get into why, that's personal stuff. But the disconnect I felt from society during that time lended a lot of weight to that game and also made it a better experience in my opinion. Everything I built, from the roads to my intricately crafted zipline network, was mine. I knew that if you played online, things that other people had built would pop up. I knew about that mechanic. So I felt a lot more pride in my accomplishments. And I wonder how much it helps or hinders your gameplay experience to constantly encounter user-built bridges and ladders left behind and stuff. Hell, maybe that's why so many people complained about the movement mechanics that I found pretty simple. I had to actually learn them early and learn them hard, rather than just finding bridges everywhere. I don't know, just speculation. Anyway, I shy away from most consumables and whatnot on my first playthroughs. Again, not out of some hardcore self-imposed challenge. I just like the idea of it being me and my swords against the world. You know, bringing realism into a game like this is silly, but I'm not going to have 800 fucking grenades on my person in a real situation like that. It would just be me and my weaponry. And I kind of like that feeling. It adds to the role-playing experience for me. I don't look anything up unless I'm really stuck, which I think has happened twice. Once for a mechanic that I couldn't understand in Sekiro, and once for how to access the DLC in Dark Souls 1, which, come on, that's a freebie. That's the bingo free space, okay?
Okay, tell me that their grab animation does not look like a drunk guy who's like 10 beers in, coming over to put his hand over your shoulder to tell you how much he fucking loves you, man. He just fucking loves you. He'd be nothing without you, man. And I'll fucking fight you. Let's get out of the fucking parking lot right now. I'll fucking fight you, bitch.
So I'm already pretty limited, but here's where I cross from suboptimal playstyle to just straight up playing the game wrong. See, something you gotta know about me is that while I have decent reaction times, my memory sucks. That means that with enemy attacks that I can sight read and time my dodges for, I'm going to have a better time with than ones that I need to remember the timings on. And any Souls fan knows where this is going. Enemies, and especially bosses in these games, extra especially as the series went on, love to attack with an animation that makes sense until it just freezes mid-animation and then continues a second or two later. I'm not joking when I say that the first few times I encountered this, I legitimately thought my game was bugged. I distinctly remember Googling enemy attack animations freezing halfway through and feeling my heart sink when I learned that it's just designed that way on purpose. I honestly couldn't tell you why this decision was made. Again, bringing realism into this is dumb, but it makes no sense to give a big swing and then just kind of pause for a moment and then finish it. All that momentum from your swing That's the point of swinging a sword. That's how you sword. Maybe if this was just a quirk for one or two bosses, like how Artorias of the Grasshopper was unique for his time, I'd be cool with it.
Bruh, look at this dude. Wait till you see the. No, 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 no.
But no, you're not meant to react to what you're seeing on the screen. You're meant to memorize every fucking move from every fucking enemy to know how long into it you're meant to dodge or block or parry, but definitely dodge because many attacks will drain all of your stamina or can't be parried. The fact that my chosen playstyle favors dodging is probably one of the few things that keeps my sanity intact. I'm certain that I will have put this in the little quick clip compilation, but it's like Matt said in his video. This isn't a series where you outsmart your enemies. It's a series where you press the roll button at the right time. You know those centipede-looking guys in Sekiro that do rapid attacks on you? I love those guys. Parrying each hit and then death blowing them is one of the most satisfying things in that fucking game. So why is it that the same fucking enemy was copy-pasted into Elden Ring without the built-in way of dealing with it that the whole enemy was designed around? You better hope that you have a good shield or you roll at the right time, otherwise enjoy today's production of Stunlock Ballet. I'm of the opinion that it's always unfair to compare one game to another, especially if it's a different developer. But I'd like to point out that the recently released game Lies of P was an absolute treat for me. And the word recently released being in this script kind of showed you how dated it is. Where was I? There are so few attacks in that game that I couldn't react to the very first time I ever saw it. Don't get me wrong, I still died a lot. My reaction time is good, but it's not that good. But at the very least, there weren't really many times where I died without thinking simply, damn, mistimed my block on that. Whereas I can't count how many times I died in Souls games, especially later ones, thinking, how the fuck was I supposed to know that was coming? A clear example being Morgoth's move, where he holds up his cane like he's going to swat a fly, and then just stands there like, I'ma do it. I'ma do it. I'ma do it. And if that wasn't bullshit enough, I'm pretty sure there are multiple amount of times that he can hold that attack. There might be a tell for which one he's going to do, but I don't know it. Now, let me clarify something else. There are few, if any, attacks in these games that you can't properly react to every time. You know, I just realized that if I'm even like 10 degrees pointed away from my microphone, it's like half as quiet. Like, it's a good microphone and I'm glad I got it, but I was so used to my old Yeti that would just record anyone who farts within the neighborhood that I gotta remember to actually point my fucking squeaker at this thing. Anyway, where was I in this fucking script? Okay. The key here is that there is a vast difference between seeing an attack coming, timing when it's going to hit, and blocking or dodging, and seeing an attack coming, remembering which nuanced animation out of many, many, many nuanced animations that you've had to remember that attack was a part of, and how long after the start of that animation you're going to need to dodge or block. Let me further clarify that there's nothing wrong with either of these two systems. If you enjoy memorizing attack patterns and what reaction each one requires, cool. That's just not something I can or want to do. I've tried. When really stuck on some battles, I dug in and memorized, okay, he wiggled his left nipple before leaping up, so this will be the one with the delayed strike, but the strike was a sweep rather than a stab, so it'll be followed by a tail swipe, then I can punish, and what the fuck, why did he just follow the tail swipe by farting on me and inflicting crotch rot? Fuck, I didn't allocate any of my flask slots to Pepto-Bismol. Oh, okay, he changes that attack pattern once he's below 60% health. Okay, I'll have to add that to my Mind Palace. Do I have any consumables? Oh, I'm dead. I'd like you to appreciate at this point that it took me about 20 attempts to say that sentence because flask slots tripped me up so hard for reasons I'll never understand. Try saying it a few times real fast. Flask slots, flask slots. Anyway, time for another anecdote. I got into an argument with someone over mimics in Dark Souls 1. They insisted any death that you can't predict is bullshit. It must be noted that they were an adamant defender of dying repeatedly to memorize enemy attack patterns. It was only unavoidable deaths outside of battle that they had a problem with. Me, I fucking love that moment. The shock that I felt as I opened that chest, saw the glimpse of those teeth, and got gobbled up by that mimic, shock that carried all the way through my death and run back to my souls, was well worth it, and is to this day one of my most vivid memories of this series. I'll never understand why some people are okay with trial and error in combat, but not in exploration. This is all without even mentioning people who pretend that every attack is sight readable and you just need to get good. No, you hiding behind your great shield while learning attack patterns is not an attack being sight readable. I really don't like this. I spend most of my time with Souls games trying to react to what I'm seeing and making an attempt at committing some things to my 16 megabytes of RAM in my head to hopefully use before it gets overwritten by the next enemy with infinite ping Counter-Strike player attack patterns, and hoping I don't have to deal with them again. Luckily, two of the most common mini-boss level enemies in Elden Ring aren't a problem. The Crucible Knights are very rare in that all of their attacks are sight reactable, and the ulcerated tree spirits aren't really hard at all if you just stay on them and keep tickling them with your swords while rolling each time they start breakdancing. However, if you couldn't guess by the title, that's okay. I like games I can react to and, by staying on my toes, can handle most things as they come to me. Take anything from Platinum Games. I played Nier Automata on the hardest difficulty level, and I loved it. I didn't die nearly as much as I do in Souls games, which isn't to say the two things are comparable. I love the way that in Bayonetta, if you dodge right before an attack hits, you get witch time. You actually get rewarded for timing your dodges, rather than timing your dodges having to be something you have to study your SATs for. Still, neither of these types of game design philosophies are inherently wrong. I'm just a longtime Souls fan who has spent the entire franchise stubbornly trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and enjoying every fucking moment of it. Anyway, this shower thought has gone on long enough that I'm completely out of hot water, but between my mention of 2B earlier and that talk about the soul draining penetrating attack, maybe I just stay in here for a cold shower. Either way, thank you for watching.
The mark of a true lord.
You know, I don't think I have anything mentioned about this in the script, so I'm just going to say it here. I've never used the Mimic tier before. I've done like 5 playthroughs of this game. The only reason I'm even doing another one is because all my other ones were on PS4 and now at PS5, and I had a hard drive failure on my PS4, and all my saves were from before then, with one exception. Let me touch my grace. One exception being my wizard, and then a few characters I made for like goofy challenge runs. SpongeBob was could only use bubble spells and jellyfish summons. Logan could only use claws and couldn't use Estus, but could use anything that would give him regeneration. And then Clint was just gonna be a bow guy, just bow. He's gonna be my bow guy. But by then I played the game so fucking much that I didn't really have it in me to really care much about challenge runs. But this is the only character I had that I had started after the hard drive failure, so it was the only one that I was able to import over to the PlayStation version, or PlayStation 5 version. And when I was making this character, I went online to find, like, if I could find some fucking light, to find characters I could make. And I knew I was going to be dual wielding, and I knew from the moment that I saw them in the trailers for the DLC, there's these two curved swords that has like a interesting looking moveset, and I want them so bad. I want them so fucking bad, and I hope they're early on in the DLC. I want them so bad. I want them so bad. So I made Shinsei a character from Bleach. Probably one of my favorite characters. I guess technically the fact that he's wearing an eye patch is like a spoiler. I guess. If you consider the fact that in a battle anime a character loses an eye at one point to be like a grave spoiler that ruins your experience, then I apologize. But yeah, I never used mimics before because I had heard how overpowered they were, and I just didn't want to do that. But this was me trying to get through the game and get everything done. Technically, I've done everything I need to do to start the DLC, but I want to like get all the side stuff done too, so I have like all the equipment and everything. So I'm just like using like whatever is at my disposal, but like I'm still not using Mimic unless like I really need to. I just another thing I probably won't put in that I keep saying I won't put in the script, but the script's already done. I just gotta record it, and I'm gonna put it over this gameplay. But it's like, no, it's 4 a.m. and my new computer is due to arrive tomorrow. And once I get it set up, I'm going to start streaming and stuff, and I'm either going to start with the DLC for this, or the Alan Wake DLC. I don't know which. Or I might stream like some random something or other to like test out the streaming, so if there's any issues, it's not wasted on like something I really wanted to stream goodness. But that's my excuse for why I've been playing so poorly. Cause like I was laying back and just watching some random Wendigoon videos, and ready to fall asleep. And I'm like, tomorrow I'm gonna record that script I typed up on my phone. And I since I'll be using the PlayStation to edit it together to just put it out, so because I want to put it out before I play the DLC. I won't be editing it the way that I would normally edit videos for this channel thing. And I think I don't know. It's been like a while since I wrote the script, and by a while I mean it's like 4 a.m. and I wrote it like yesterday during the day. So like I don't know, like almost not 24 hours, like I don't know, like 18 hours or something. Uh, um, I think I mentioned in that too that I was just going to put it over some generic gameplay. There, hypothetically, I would, especially since I'll have a computer, so I can, do some better editing. I would like capture some footage of other games in the series, to like make the footage go along with the stuff I'm talking about. But I just want to get. That's the whole point of showered thoughts, is to just like get out things quickly. Like, I know that it's funny, like I try to say that like the point of the channel, like the whole thing with the channel and like no researching and stuff is on purpose to maintain the purity of the shower thought, so that it's not like, tainted by like research and whatever. Because like even if like my shower thought is like completely wrong and easily disproven, like it stands on its own as the thought that I have of the thought. And it's not meant to be out of laziness. It's still funny that like I put out one video and then a year went by. and I think I put this in the script. I can't remember, but there's a reason why there hasn't been any other videos. The laptop I was using to edit and stuff, it went kaput. And then I bought a laptop, and I was doing other stuff on it, and then I was actually halfway through editing a video that's like a really unnecessary, like 40-minute deep dive into a music video that I like, which is the dumbest thing in the world. Anyway, and I was editing that, but then that laptop crapped out on me like 2 days after the warranty was up. So, but with this new computer I bought, I actually paid for the extended the warranty thingy. So yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to get through this and get it done as quick as possible, so that when I was ready to stream the DLC, I'd be ready to stream the DLC. Yeah, and I've done 2 hours worth of recording, and editing that down to interesting moments should be enough for whatever's in the script. So yeah. Thanks for watching again, even though in the script I already said thank you for watching.
Heyo, it's me, your boy.
I said at the beginning of this that I would probably, maybe, possibly put something at the end, since I had played some of the DLC, even though the whole point of making the video was to make it before the DLC, in case the DLC addressed any of the issues. And so this is me making a quick little something or other of talking to you, and hi, how you doing? So I'll start by saying that I don't really know if I'd say the DLC addressed any of my issues. It's still kind of the same general thing. It's too much into the DNA of the series to really, which is fine, because like I talked about stuff like Liza P, and so there's plenty of other games doing this kind of stuff that I can get what I want out of, and I can get good stuff out of Souls, and that's good. I mentioned that I wanted to find those swords from the trailer, and I found them pretty early on. I can't remember the name of them, but they're the ones that you kind of hold backwards, and they're curved swords that you hold backwards, which is such a cool look, and you never see that. I think I've only ever seen that once in my life, and that was in a game called, I think, Mmkay. I think, was that the game where you play as Gact? I don't know. But, I love the set with that. I found on this weird island that I go through a tunnel for, I found this one enemy, and I got some dual weapons from them that have this weird dancey move where you just hold the button and you just keep twirling, and it reminds me of that scene from Simpsons where they're like, I'm just going to keep spinning my arms, and if you happen to walk into it, that's your fault. But anyway, one thing that does bother, kind of annoy me, is the way that they do, like, they can't seem to make up their mind if they want to let you power stance two weapons of the same type, or just have the pickup be two copies of the weapon, and one of them is sheathed, and then you press the button and you get the other one out, and then you use them both. Because it's like, it's cool looking to like power stance two different weapons of the same type, like in Dark Souls 2 with the Red Rust Scimitar and the jeweled one. At the same time, I get that if you want to power stance, or if you want to, like, dual wield two of the same weapon, having them both drop like in that way is probably helpful. And come to think of it, I don't actually know if it's possible to have one out with the other sheathed, and then put another weapon of the same type in your offhand, and then still power stance. That actually just occurred to me, and I need to try that out. Anyway, as far as how far I've made it into the DLC, I've made it pretty far. I really liked the big field with the purpley blue flowers. I discovered by accident that you can kill those giant fire guys by throwing a bomb into their head. That was cool. I think as far as story progression, the furthest I've made it is that area down south where you go way up that hill, and then you go down into that deep cave, and then there's like some weird mist blocking it. That's about as far as I've made it. I beat the Rinanaliana person, and yeah. So, and then I've got written here two things that, as I was watching back as I was editing and watching back the final video, two things that I had forgotten to put in that I'm going to mention now is one, cosmetic slots. Why the fuck doesn't this game have cosmetic slots? Why don't games have cosmetic slots? Every game should have cosmetic slots. I don't get why it's so simple. Just have a second set of equipment slots that when you put stuff in that's what you see on your body, but that's not the stat you get. And before anyone says it, yeah, you disable it for multiplayer. Of course you disable it for multiplayer. Or at the very least, you could still have it on yourself for your own enjoyment of look, but have the actual weapon you're using, shown to the enemy. But I just don't like if I find a weapon and I think it looks so cool, but I don't like its stats or I don't like its moveset. That sucks, man. Why can't I just have a cool weapon and have a cool moveset? It's just fucking. Um, and another thing I wrote down that I'm surprised I didn't bring up is there's a lot of things in the Souls games that, when I think about it, would make me really mad or annoyed if they were in any other game. Like the way that you can get bad endings or even just bad endings to like a quest line through no real fault of your own, just because you didn't know what to do. You made an arbitrary choice that you didn't know which was going to be the right one. In pretty much any other game, that would feel like such bullshit, you know. But in the Souls games, it just it it feels like it works. It just, I don't know. And then like the way that like NPCs, like there's like time limits on stuff. Like any other game, if there's a time limit, like oh, you gotta get to this cave and do this before blah blah blah, or oh, you progressed too far in the story. Looks like you don't get to do this quest anymore. That shit pissed me the fuck off. But in the Souls games, it feels like I like it because yeah, it sucks that sometimes you might miss out on a quest line or something, but it feels like these characters have lives of their own. Like finding some character dead that you met and then finding out later that if you do things right, you can actually accompany them and help them on their storyline. That feels cool, you know? Like, as much as I think he's probably one of the most overhyped characters in video game history, Solaire, you know, finding him all psycho crazy, I am the sun down in Lost Azalith. I was like, oh, that's a tragic end to the story. And then finding out that if you do things right, you can actually give him a good ending. That's cool. I like that. And I think it's a testament to like the writing. I think it's a testament to the atmosphere, the style. Like I don't really know exactly what it is that makes it so that that kind of stuff does not bother me in Souls games, but would piss me off in pretty much any other game. But anyway, thank you for watching this. This is I really, really wish I could have like made this the same way I make the other videos with all the quick cuts and the memes and just like the tight editing. But with the subject matter, it just would have been a nightmare. I would have had to go back to all the other games and get footage, and it just would have. It just wasn't something that I had the time or energy to do. But I do have some more ideas for showered thoughts. I got some stuff in the pipeline that I want to work on, some shorter stuff that I think might be kind of cool. Anyway, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.